What's up, and welcome back to Comm Chatter, the solid steel and sex appeal podcast. Hopefully you joined me last time. I have my good buddy and comrade from the 173rd Airborne Brigade. That's right, best unit in the military. Ian Jones was on. That's right, good friend Ian. Had a lot of fun talking to him. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that episode. If you haven't, please go check that out. Episode today, I've got a member of my leadership from that same unit. That's right, 173rd Airborne Brigade. That's what this podcast is about, solid steel and sex appeal, the one and only. But yeah, I've got my first sergeant today. So I reached out to him, and I'm very pleased that he agreed to do this. We talked for a good hour and a half, and just him sharing memories and whatnot. Just as the same thing with I said about Ian, we left out a lot of stuff. I'm gonna have to see if I can get back with him again and possibly have him on again, because he did it until his computer died. So, but yeah, I hope you're enjoying these little podcasts that I'm doing, because I'm gonna keep doing them, keep pumping them out, different soldiers and different members of the leadership and whatnot. But like I said, today is the first sergeant, so let's get to it. There you are. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. How have you been?
I've been good.
Good. I'll try not to take too much of your time. I've been trying to do these little podcasts. I had Jonesy on already. Just basically going to have a conversation with you. So,
right.
I'll start out with having you introduce yourself, and then I'll just, like I just did, I'll ask you how you are. You can tell me where you went from 173rd if you want to. But then just talk about our deployment and the time that we were in Italy.
All right, you going to lead in with questions about the deployment, or?
I can. I really want it to come off as like a conversation rather than an interview. So I'll try to do my best to ask some questions and whatnot. But if you have stories, if there's something that you recall or whatever, go right into it, because that's what will make it good. So
thousands of stories.
Well, I've got as long as you do.
And funny, I just looked at some of the pictures that you gave me when we were getting the yearbook ready, the deployment book, and it was like you and Cortese and a couple of the other guys, and I was like, yeah, those were some good times.
Absolutely.
I think the Muppet was in there, and Muma, and Vega checking out his ASV, and there was a lot of different ones. But yeah, we can get it started. I don't have anything going on except that. So, and I did watch Jones' video a little bit ago. So.
Oh, you watched the whole thing?
I tried to as much as I could. I was at work when I started watching it this morning, and then finished it off when I got home. So.
Well, I appreciate that. We mentioned you in that.
Yeah, we were actually in Fort Lewis together.
You and Jonesy, yeah.
Yeah, afterwards. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I walked in, and there he is sitting there.
He said you called him out during a formation.
I probably did. I don't know. My Fort Lewis time was probably after going from the 173rd to Fort Lewis, it was kind of downhill from there. So
sounds about like me. I went to Fort Drum afterwards. So
yeah.
I say it all the time. I went from the best unit in the military to the worst. So
yeah, I worked with a guy that was at Fort Drum, and then we had another guy. He was at Carson. That when the whole coronavirus thing started up, he went to another dealer here in town. But yeah, it's a small world.
Are you still in the military?
Huh?
Did you retire, or are you still in the military?
Yeah, I retired about 9 years ago.
So what do I call you now? Because I know you as first sergeant.
Just call me as Bryan.
Oh, that's gonna be weird. All right.
Yeah. You call me whatever. I'm sure you guys called me a couple different things back then, so I'm probably used to it. But Sturdy lives up the road about 80-something miles.
Really?
Yep. We see him.
You're in Missouri, you said?
Yep. I'm right south of Springfield, so.
Gotcha.
But Sturdy lives up the road. So does Peterson from Big Peterson that was at the Corngall.
Yeah.
He lives up the road too. So it is a small world.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can go get started.
All right. Well, I've already been recording, so
Okay.
I can use that as far as the introduction or whatever goes. But I say it all the time, and I think I said it on the interview or the podcast with Jonesy. Any day of the week, one of you guys called me, I'd be right there and be like, all right, let's go back. Because that's how much I think the leadership, and I mean the soldiers too, even good old Donald D. I would go right back to war with all of you guys. Say what?
Roger that. My Continental. Yeah.
Do you have any stories you want to tell about him?
Yeah, he's a character. But you take like Donald Rumsfeld said, you don't go to war with what you wish you had, you go to war with what you had. So
we got through it though.
Oh, we did. That was something else from Fusion's inception of 1 June 2006 to deployment, beginning with our torch party and advance party, and then our main body leaving in May of 2007. It was, a year's time that we had no equipment. I remember staying in formation with 6 guys. That's what Fusion started with, was 6 people that were brand new soldiers or had been transferred over to Italy. So we had 6 guys, and then we pulled over they got rid of the S&T platoon from HHC, and we absorbed them. So we went from 6 to maybe 40 something. And then that was in June. When we went to Grafenberg in October, we had 30 truck drivers that were all 11 Bravos.
Right. I remember that's right around the time that I got there, so right before
No truck driving was done. They were all doing EIB testing and training at the time. So we got a lot of bodies, but we weren't able to use them. So we made do. There was times where Captain Thing and myself were both sitting in gun turrets on 5 tons during our first graph rotation. And we were doing resupplies like that. I mean, we had nobody.
Right.
But from nobody to probably one of the most valorous and decorated forward support companies the Army had and probably still has.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big step. And then come back and we reset, and then we go to graph number 2 in January, February of 2007. Or yeah, it was 2007. So we stood up June 2006, went to graph number 1 in October, graph number 2 February, March of 2007. So we learned in Valentine's Day that we weren't going to Iraq anymore, we were going to Afghanistan. And then we come back from that and we go back up to Hohenfels for our MRE, which our whole plan, Captain Thing and I, we weren't going to let the enemy get us. I mean, that was it. So anytime the OCs come in, wanting to know information, we'd tell them one thing and do something differently. I mean, that was the only way we were going to win.
Yeah.
And we had to take that as you can't trust anybody. You can't trust anybody when you get down range. So if people that are seeking information, they're going to use it against you. So there was only one time, and I remember Lotz was, I think, in the truck behind me, and we were going on one of the convoys that went around Hohenfels, and he calls up to me, and we have to stop. So I get out and I'm like, why don't we stop? Because OC said we had to stop and turn around. I said, nope. I said, they had their chance and they missed it. We're taking off. So that's kind of how that one went down. But the whole tailgate resupply and the convoys that we were doing at Hohenfels, live fires, convoy live fires, I think it all set up to get to Afghanistan. And then once we got in Afghanistan in May of 2007, it wasn't cemented in you guys' minds how important it was. I mean, we can do individual and team, platoon, company training and Hohenfels and Grafenwehr, but once the bullets start flying, that's when the shit hit the fan.
Right.
So when 30 May, when they're going up to the corn gall and get hit, going up and get hit coming back down, that was it. That's setting the tone for the rest of the deployment. So anytime we get hit, we're sending mortars, we're sending artillery, we're dropping bombs. That's, what's, a couple rounds that are coming back at us, we're putting arsenal back on them. I mean, it's everything we can call the bear. That's what's going to be put down on them.
Yeah.
And Lotes and Friend and pushing a jingle truck off the side of the cliff, all that was done, that set the tone for you guys. And there was times at the end of May and the first part of June that it going from Fob Fenty or Jalalabad to Camp Blessing. It was a 2-day damn trip.
Yeah.
That was because the equipment wasn't maintained. The way resupply that was done as we're doing our left seat, right seat ride, it wasn't streamlined enough. And I always used to, get on you guys. It's about being proficient and efficient, being good at what you do and be good at what you do.
Yeah.
So when we get to a drop, we get to the fortress. That's the first stop on the line. We're spending the least amount of time we can right there. And then we move on. And then we stop at Asadabad and we spend the least amount of time we can. We get going again. And it was always about that. And then as it progressed through the deployment, we made Asadabad just a drop and go. We'd put a flat rack on a trailer on the PLSs, just pull in there, let them go and take off, and we're done. Or we just have a jingle truck and he just drops off and we keep going. We were going from 2-day CLP to Blessing and back to a couple hours.
Yeah.
6-7 hours.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's with contact.
Right.
So it was a learning event. I mean, we're in Grafenveer and Hohenfels when you're doing a convoy live fire. That's one thing. Hey, the gun's out of ammunition. Let me put some more ammo in there and get the firing again. That's another thing when bullets are pinging off that, armor plating.
Absolutely.
Off that gunner shield. How are you going to put more rounds in there? Mumaw done it numerous times. So did Peyton.
Yeah.
And the thing was, what do we do with the cans? I don't care. Throw them off the damn side of the truck. They're empty. We're not going to need them anymore. So reloading ammunition was something that it's an acquired skill, especially when you're trying to keep your head behind that armor shield.
Yeah.
And putting 40 millimeter rounds into a gun. But they got real good at it.
That they did.
And Captain Thing and I tried to, pull back as much as we could and give it to Lotes and Van Leer. At the time it was, what was the first platoon leader's name? Hispanic guy. I just said his name. Huh?
Rosario?
Yeah, Miguel. So between Rosario and Van Leer's platoon leaders, you guys did amazing things. It's not just the distribution platoon. It was, all facets. It was field feeding teams at each one of their sites. It was the maintenance guys.
Yep.
It was the armament and the CE repair guys. And also, you running ammunition points, running the resupplies, running the sling loads. It was everything that each individual did to impact, the 1,000-man task force that you're supporting. And I've said it numerous times then, after deployment, you guys wouldn't see another force support company that did what you did. It was that amazing.
Yeah.
It's thousands upon thousands of rounds delivered. That was just mortar rounds or the 105 and 155 rounds. It was just, we were pulling stuff out of war stockage because we were shooting so much ammunition. And Colonel Austin kept the stats on it. And it was a good thing that, somebody was recording the battalion's history during a 15-month deployment that was in one of the contentious parts of Afghanistan. Hell, and the whole, Central Command. There was more action that our battalion faced, not just fusion, but, there were 6 you will call it line companies, HAC, Able, Battle, Chosen, Destin, and then us, we all saw contact in varying amounts. I mean, the battle guys saw more than we did, Chosen saw more than we did. But for a forward support company, for guys running distribution and resupply, we were in it. And it was amazing that we were it's the fine-tuned, well-oiled machine that those CLPs were. I mean, you guys may have looked like a bunch of ragbags coming out of the trucks after, driving for 6, 8, 12 hours. But when you'd pull up to the fuel points and we're scraping, spent cartridges off the trucks, and the guys from the BSB or from Bob Finty are like, where the hell you guys come from? I mean, the name got out there. Everybody wanted to be a part of Fusion. That's why, cooks were trying to get over to us. That's why we had our own Colt teams. We had 2 Colt teams that rolled around with us.
Yeah.
That were bringing all the assets that they had into the fight. And the brigade fires NCO was the one that set that up. So and this was, I want to say it was August of 2007. He's the one that approached us and said, hey, here's what I can do for you. Got a combat observation lasing team that, can roll in their own truck and your convoys. And we're like, let's do it. Because that way, the platoon leader at the time was Rosario or Lotes, whoever's running the convoy could manage the convoy, and that Colt element could manage the fires. Yeah. And when you're running through a battle space and you're trying to make sure that the Kiowas that we had or the Apaches that would sometimes fly the route or the combat aircraft, between those and the mortars and the howitzers, somebody had to make sure that, somebody wasn't going to fly into a round. So that platoon leader already had enough going on with all those jingle trucks and all their antics.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, like I said, it was an amazing thing that, we had the Colts, we had the medics. I think one time we had 6 to 7 medics that were assigned to us because we were taking 2 medics with us on each CLP. And those times when we were running 2 CLPs at a time, I mean, that's a lot of people on the ground. So I always, and Captain Thing himself both used to say, we didn't do anything. We just were there to keep you guys between Fusion Company and everybody else on Bob Finty away from you. And the times with Jones, he didn't bring up the fact that, he almost ran over a command sergeant major with a PLS. We didn't. Yeah. I had to go see sergeant major about that. And Sturdy going to the range to test fire the weapons and PTs. I had to go see him about that. So all the heat that you guys were getting, Captain Thing and myself were taking that away from you, and we were taking the heat for you. So you guys could load the ammo, and so you guys could get the trucks ready and do all the things that you had to do. And we tried to minimize the amount of people working in the talk on Bob Finty. I had Papa Clark in there, I had Lieutenant DeMarco, and then Captain Thing and myself, and then somebody maybe to answer a phone, but there wasn't people handling paperwork. There wasn't people just farting around, because on the admin side of it, I was sending out to all the platoon leaders, platoon sergeants, the E5s, the E4s at these locations, get, their statuses or what they needed or whatever. And then we had Sergeant Peterson from the field feeding teams taking care of the class 1, the food part of it. And then I had Zickrick and Chief Rodriguez there at Finty taking care of, the CLPs when they came in. So the talk itself was just the minute little small point, part of it, making sure that the larger parts of it were able to operate. And that, I think it worked really good. And
definitely.
And you guys with your, and we'd come in with a CLP, And after a while, well, actually going out with the CLP, let's talk about that first. Hitting the gate. I mean, it was, if you were riding with one of the trucks and you had a headset on, it probably would have blown your mind. Like, where's all the chatter at? Because as soon as that first truck made the left onto the highway coming out of Fob Fenty, I mean, there was only three things that was being said.
Yeah.
Truck number and green on weapon and green on dude. And that was it. I mean, that's all you had to say. You didn't have to ramble on about a whole bunch of other stuff that wasn't important.
Right.
So it was, 7 green on dude, green on weapon. 3-1 green on, I think he didn't have a weapon, but he's green on dude. So, I mean, that was another thing we tried to do is streamline the convoy operations between Lotes and Rosario and Van Leer when he got on board. But it was almost radio silent once we crossed the big bridge there and made the right.
Yeah.
And there was no talking until 100 speed bumps later or however many it was to Fortress.
Yeah.
Then once we got in the Fortress, it was, with just pull up a halt or whatever it was. But, a lot of stuff the convoy operations did, that with, leaving the gate, if we had to stop, trucks are shut off, lights are off. There's unnecessary chatter on the radio that was cut out. All the bad lessons that we learned from previous people, not pointing them out. I mean, I'm sure they did great things. They were there for 16 months, but being on the Pesh River Road without a helmet or with your body armor open was not a good idea. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been in the country, but I remember we come back from one of the CLPs at the beginning, and I told everybody, I don't care what they say, what they do, what they look like. If I catch you like that, I'm gonna snatch you up. And yeah, it was hot.
I think I remember that briefing too.
Yeah, Afghanistan's hot. Yeah, it's awkward. It's uncomfortable wearing all that, but you have a big plate on the front of you that keeps a bullet from hitting you. And if it's open, it's really defeating the purpose.
Right.
Yeah. But I think our convoys within the first 3 months were able to run. Once we got all the issues with the vehicle sorted out, not having communication equipment installed, breaking down every time you go out, nobody to actually care for them. Once we got that sorted out, we were good. Because as soon as you guys came back, it was first stop was a fuel point, next stop was a motor pool. Once you pull up to the SI container, taking the SI off the trucks, then you pull over to the mechanics and get checked out. And then you clean your truck out, then you can go home.
Yeah.
That whole reset thing was done for a reason. It wasn't just because we didn't like you.
And it was a well-oiled machine.
Yes. And those mechanics, they did freaking wonders with those trucks. I mean, they were beat down. Those 1114s that we got from the beginning, whew, they had some miles on them. So once we got those 1151s, they had less maintenance to do on them. They were able to work on some of the other things that they had to do. So it was a good time. It really was. But stories, there's stories abound. The guy sitting outside the gate at Blessing, trying to make his tea underneath the fuel truck, and it explodes. That was a pretty good one. I think I do remember you hitting a tree with a 50 caliber machine gun.
Yes, and I was accused of being asleep, but I swear today I wasn't asleep. I was turning like I was supposed to, and then I came back, and there was a fucking tree there, and it ripped the 50 cal off.
Yep, and I'm glad you brought that up. There's, if you were to watch our convoys go up the Pesh River Road, and you remember how windy that dude was, and as soon as you passed, it was where California used to be. It's called Tentil Mateen. Once you got through that area and it had that switchback that went up, if you're the Taliban and you're sitting there watching, I wouldn't have shot at us because those guns were always moving.
Yep.
And if you couldn't traverse high enough to get to that cliff that's right there, that guy was turning around, and the trucks before or after him were covering him. So you guys, it still amazes me 9 years, being out of the Army, but 12 years being, out of Afghanistan for the second time. And, all the stuff that you guys did is still amazing. The field feeding and working with, I just saw a picture of a little redhead kid. We used to call him Bobby Hill. Damn, he was up at the Corngall with Battle Buoy and all them. But he was out at Vegas for a while, and he's just in this little, basically like a little cave with a little stove and all that cooking. And he's got his stove and got his pot, but he was making hot food for the guys at Vegas. And there's only two ways of getting there: walk or riding a helicopter. And when you can provide, hot chow to somebody, that means a lot.
And he was one of our guys?
Yeah. And damn, the little redhead kid. I can't remember his name. I'm
going to have to look through all my pictures and see if I can.
Yeah, I probably should have brought my book in here with me. But yeah, he's, like I said, we used to call him Bobby Hill, but he was up there with Ramirez and Battle Buoy. And damn.
I remember the nickname Bobby Hill. I do specifically.
Yeah.
That's one thing you like to assign nicknames. You gave me Webschwitz.
Yep.
Do you recall?
I chuckled the other day when I saw that text. I was like, he still remembers 12 years later. Yep. But between that and then like at Able, Maine, when you had Kamara and you had those guys with that containerized kitchen out in the open, 120 plus degrees inside there, making food for people. And it meant a lot to those guys at Combat Maine, being able to get 2 hots a day. And then of course the maintenance guys, you got Lockhart that was there, who actually swung through earlier last year. I saw him and Peterson went to dinner together. But you got Lockhart and Miller and Dante Hawthorne there at Combat Maine. And then, man, bless his heart, he passed away, but, he was working out of a MKT providing hot chow. I think he was up at Monty. That was one of our most northern points that we had up past the Sadabad. You didn't turn left on the Pesh, you just kept going. But yeah, everything that was done was amazing. And then you got, not just, the whole turning wrenches or making food or driving a truck. You got the guys that were going out and checking the mortar tubes. And you got the guys that were checking the howitzers. You got the guys that were checking the M4s, keeping the guns in the fight. That was important too. I had Sergeant Major Myers tell me one time, he goes, I don't care if my Humvee runs, but if my weapons don't fire, then we got problems. So there you go with that.
Yeah.
And you're sending these guys out to remote locations with all the stuff that they need to repair weapons with. You can't kill the bad guy if you don't have something to do it with.
Right.
But it was, like you've said and Joan said, this was the high point of her career. And even for me at the time, being the first sergeant, it was, after that, it was, I won't say straight downhill, but it was a pretty good downhill run.
Yeah.
Leaving,
just such a high point, or because something else bad happened, or what?
That was, once you've climbed to the top of the mountain.
Gotcha.
What else do you got?
Gotcha.
You can compare it to other mountains, but they're not going to be the same.
Right.
But that was a good time. It was Captain Thing and myself both, because that was our baby, starting it off. When we talked when we were in Afghanistan in 2005, when he was working in the brigade talk, I stopped in and talked to him a couple times. And then we come back from that, and the brigade was in transformation, standing up more battalions. and we wanted in on it. We wanted Force Support Company. We wanted the 2nd Battalion's Force Support Company, and we got it. And we pretty much we either stole it, took it, found it, or later on got it actually hand received to us. But there was so much going on in Italy between OEF 6 and OEF 8 that people were leaving. Containers were unaccounted for. Containers that were accounted for, the people that were signed for it, they were already gone. So that was a bad time to be a property book holder.
Yeah.
But it was good for us because we basically just grabbed the building. That building we were in, we pretty much stake claim to that dude from, the get-go, because nobody else was there at the time. Hey, this is our spot. And then, the brigade got on. All right, you guys can have that building. We'll put Destin Company over here, and we'll put 1st Battalion's people over here. So we were good with that aspect. And we didn't have nothing. I mean, there was times where I remember sitting there and we got, I think it was 27 50 cals at one time for the company, because at the time we didn't have any. And all the heavy weapons and other weapons had been in reset. So when they came out and the equipment that was slated for the companies finally hit the books, and they're like, hey, you guys are short 27, 50 cals. Them dudes just showed up one day. Hey, I guess we put them away now. But because the way battalion was set up during Afghanistan, we did lose some lasers. We did lose some optics. We did lose some heavy weapons because in fixed positions, they were more important than sitting in a container in Jalalabad. So it wasn't that big of a deal to lose a 50 caliber that wasn't going to be used. I mean, what were we going to do with 27 machine guns? We weren't going to have those on trucks at one time. So you got to get rid of them. They're going to battle company. We'll drop them off when we go up there. So that's the way it was. I mean, we understood that, but then they had things, battle company, we got the boomerangs from them that we put on our trucks. Remember those little microphones that were on the back?
Yeah.
That's where we signed them from, was battle company. So they weren't being used. They're in a container. We did some wheeling and dealing, got them dudes and got them on the trucks. And next thing you know, you're able to, detect where a shot came from within under a second. So it worked out.
Yeah.
And the interoperability between the companies, I think they may have, and I talked to Sal Junta about this, about how even though we were not infantrymen, we still felt like we were on, almost the same plane as those guys were. And they respect Fusion Company. All the line companies did, all the dudes did, because they didn't. Yeah, I'd find it hard pressed to find somebody in the battalion that didn't get something from us, either ammunition, food, mail, uniforms, those crappy body armor vests when we had changeover, boots. Everybody in that battalion was touched by what you guys did. Because, that's the only way you can look at it.
Yeah, you said something earlier. I didn't want to cut you off, but I can say it again now. Before we deployed, Fusion Company was just a bunch of fucking pogues that didn't know what they were doing. But shortly into deployment, you can start to see all the line companies starting to respect us, and we were basically one and the same with them. So we were doing something right.
Yeah. In September 2007, we were going to the Korengal. We stopped at right outside of Cop, Michigan there. And I think we had 8 or 9 jingle trucks with us. There was 5 gun trucks and then jingle trucks. So battalion said, hey, enemy contacts likely. You got aircraft overhead. Destin Company's coming down from the Korengal. They're going, refuel, rearm, and they'll be right behind you. Okay, no problem. We take off. Got 2 gun trucks in the front. Peyton was my gunner still at the time, and Hopkins was driving. Moomaw was driving the XO and the truck behind me. With Vega on the 50 cal. And then we had 8 or 9 jingle trucks. Captain Thing's truck was the 3rd gun truck in the line. And then we had 2 more, I think Lotes might have been in there, maybe the last truck. But we start heading up. We get where that big boulder was that kind of turned to the right, and then hear a loud boom. And that was the aircraft dropping its ordnance so it could take off and go have a beer or whatever they do. So there go our air cover. So we keep going up, and we get to where later on that's the same spot that Captain Thing got blowed up in January. But we make that left-hand turn. We start going around that long spur right before you get to the switchbacks. And then Peyton tells me, he goes, "Hey, somebody's shooting." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Yep, they're engaging Destiny Company that caught up to us. So there's 2 or 3 points of fire behind us, shooting at their gun trucks. And then, of course, we get out in the open. They start shooting at us. Jingle truck stop. And then we have to do a couple other things, yell at the drivers to get back in, because that was their little TTP about jumping out and hiding behind a tire. So fire a rocket off. People start moving again. We get up there. I think, no, Vega was driving and Bonilla was gunning. That's what it is. Or maybe, no, let me get it right. Moomaw was driving, Bonilla was gunning, Vega was in the back seat because he had to hand ammo up. And I think he got hit in the head with a can or something. But we get up to the Korengal and reset again and switch barrels out. I think Bonilla fired like 800 rounds or something that time. But it was, everybody's talking like we're talking now, pretty much. I mean, shooting again. I mean, we were so used to it at that point that it wasn't that big of a deal for everybody. They were shooting, yeah, all right, whatever. I mean, we were in a truck. So that was something. Between that one and, I mean, if you look back, that was 5 September. And then we were coming back down. I think it was 11th or 12th of November. We were coming back down, and supposedly we're going to get in contact. We got shot at a little bit, and then there's IED in the ground. And they did a battalion operation a couple of days later to investigate that, and that's when our RCP heavies Husky got took out. And then, of course, December, when we cleared that bridge they were putting in right before Hanukkah Miracle, it wasn't really a bridge. It was just a low spot where you had to climb through there. They were putting a bridge in. The next day, I think an AMP guy got blowed up. January 1st, get shot at again on the Korengal. I mean, there's certain dates that you can pretty much set your clock to, because it wasn't that harsh of a winter. It was kind of cold, but then there was a couple, bad guys that were still out there wanting to do some harm to us. So that thing gets hit, I want to say 23rd of January or something, 22nd, 23rd of January. And then Mario, our Jingle fuel truck driver, gets hit in April. And then, you got to throw in all the other stuff the battalion did during that whole 15 months as well. But I mean, you take the bad with the good, and there was a lot more good than there was bad.
Yep.
But when it was bad, it was bad.
Right.
And I do remember Jones talking about when Wanat was going off, and that was a pretty bad time. I mean, it's a bad time. I mean, I can say that. I mean, we were always fusion was never supposed to remain in Fenty the whole 15 months. We were supposed to move the fortress from the get-go.
Really?
Yeah. We never did, because we were able to impact, the battalion operations more from Fenty than we would have from Fortress, because we either have to drive from Fortress back to Fenty to get supplies, or somebody would have to push supplies to us. And when you're relying upon somebody else, are they going to come through for you? But we're at Fenty, and that morning, especially when not, we're at the fortress and we get the hold order. That's our freaking dudes. So we have a convoy out. We call back the Lotes and we spin another convoy up. So by the time we get the blessing, that convoy is almost caught up to us. That left 550 is pulling in almost right behind us at damn blessing, because we're bringing the stuff that could change that battle.
Yeah.
Or so we, hoped. But it hits a little bit more to home when it's your people. Instead of the BSB, they're like, yeah, we'll get it to you when we get it to you.
Right.
But when it's our people, we get it to you as fast as we can get it to you.
Yep.
And that's what we tried to do. And there ain't nothing you can do about it now, but looking back, there's certain things you wanted to do more of. Hell, we would have drove every piece of mortar ammunition we could to Combat Maine, although they'd probably shoot it off as soon as it pulled away, but they were pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Especially with Captain Frederick at the time. Like, I guess you guys probably didn't hear, but his nickname was Kinetic Frederick, because he would fire off so many rounds. I mean, it was more of a show of force if, the Taliban's sitting and wait and the convoy's coming up the road and they hear mortars coming out of Combat Maine. They're like, well, maybe we shouldn't.
Yep.
So, he's got, you can look at it both ways. He's either expending ammunition as a deterrent or, just to expend it. But it was good having those company commanders and first sergeants that supported fusion as much as we supported them.
Yep.
Having those, as the convoys are coming through, having the guns turned to us so we could have responsive indirect, fire if needed. So it was a pretty big deal, I think, because from where I was at it, not in the, per se the trenches with you guys, but Captain Thing and myself, we both, we had a thing that if you guys were on the road, we were going to be on the road with you. One of those shared risks kind of things.
Yeah.
That we're not going to put you in harm's way if we're not going to be in harm's way with you.
I was going to say, you said you weren't in the trenches, but I don't remember a time where we rolled out and you guys weren't with us.
No, there was a couple. I'd stay at Blessing a couple times for promotion boards or something like that. But yeah, almost. Yeah, Lotz and Van Leer and Rosario all, I guess, understood or knew that if a convoy was going out, F7 was going on it. I could be at the front, I could be at the back, I could be at the middle, but it's going to be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Not saying they couldn't do the jobs, but when we went up to that, as you and Jones was talking about, when the BSB got, rolled up or whatever you want to refer to it as. Yeah, I cussed some people out that night too. And it wasn't just Afghans, it was people from our Cav squadron, because they're sitting in a little draw. And I told him we're putting my truck there, and he's trying to say we were here first or something like that. And I pretty much told him, get packing. But yeah, we were there for things that Lotz or the platoon leaders couldn't handle, for when you needed a little bit extra, I guess. But we were going to be on the road. If you were going to be on the road, we were going to be on the road. No, there wasn't. Sometimes we were both on the road with you.
Yeah.
There really wasn't no choice on the platoon leader, platoon sergeant's side of it, but it was always good to have. And we may or may not have done convoy operations the correct way, but it worked pretty damn good for us. When
I would say it was the correct way.
when you got two gun trucks in the front, one that's got a 50 cal, one that's got a Mark 19, and you got two trucks in the back that's got the same setup, and you got boomerangs on those trucks, and you got gun trucks spread out throughout the center of the convoy, it makes a difference.
Yep.
You know, that's a real big deterrent coming at 12.7 millimeters at you, as that 50 caliber round is.
Yeah.
So I think we learned a lot of lessons quick. You know, when you're training with 5 tons in Germany, yeah, you can replicate some of the things, but nothing like going 3 miles an hour on the Cornwall Road and just you're almost a sitting duck. You're still quacking, but yeah, you're a pretty easy target. But learning the things like dropping the rain caps, taking that stack off the Humvees and putting the rain cap flush with the hood, cutting the tailpipes off to where the dust is not blowing up. A lot of things like that weren't done, but they made sense. Let's do it. I don't want to have to look around, this air cleaner stack that's in the way. Yeah. Get out of the way. We're not Fording in this truck anyway. So there's a lot of things, strapping ammunition down, stuff inside trucks, putting stuff, outside of trucks. So you're not having to, pilfer through it. If you look at the deck lid on my truck, there's usually bags on it. Our little patrol bags that we had, or the medic's bag, or the litter was, across the back where the spare tire was at, because if we had to get into the trunk and get ammunition, I didn't want to push around a whole bunch of bags.
Right.
So I think we did pretty damn good for who we were and what we knew at the time. So yeah, if we're going to roll out, we're going to roll out with enough equipment to last for an hour, before an Able company had to get to us, or Destiny company had to get to us. So if we couldn't sustain a fight for an hour, we shouldn't even be out there. And that was what we tried to impress upon other people and other units that wanted to ride along, or wanted, I don't know why the BSB wanted to go down the Pesh River Road, but didn't make any sense to me either. But if you're not ready for a fight, you can go looking for a fight and get your butt kicked, or you can go looking for a fight and win that fight. And we were trying to win it.
Yeah. Did you know that me and Jonesy, I think we talked about it on the podcast, we stockpiled AT4s, LULs. Somehow we got a bunch of hand grenades, and our trucks were like fully stockpiled with all that shit. Like we even made mounts and stuff to hang it up top of the 5-ton.
Yeah, I remember having the AT4s in the 5 tons. That was one of the things that we wouldn't say impressed upon, but there's a picture of my truck. It was on 5th of July 2008, and I just looked at it the other day. I had a starter belt of Mark 19 ammo that had 56 rounds, and then all the other 48 round belts, and then hand grenades, smoke grenades, shotgun with non-lethal, less than lethal rounds, 6 magazines for the M4 that would sit behind my seat, and a box in the trunk that had 30, and then I think 2,400 rounds of saw ammo, small D, 2 AT4s, and 6 LULs. So
all right, so it wasn't just me and Jones' truck.
No, it was everybody.
It was just us, but
it was everybody.
Okay.
And that's not including the HLZ kits that we put in the trucks. And after they rolled that stupid thing off the Cornwall Road, that was one of the things. You're going to have a buzzsaw and you're going to have a BS-17 panel in it. You're going to have, a 9-line laminated in there because of something. And they're going to be in all the trucks and all the same spot. So, tell somebody to go get an HLZ kit, it's going to be, no matter whose truck it is, it's going to be on that driver's side, right behind the rear passenger.
Right.
It was that way in all the gun trucks that we had those kits. So it's things like that, that's the first part of June that we identified if we needed something changed. So we made that change and made it happen. And then, of course, the climbing ropes, the carabiners, the ascenders, all that other stuff. I don't even know if you guys knew about that. That was in the back of my truck. So if a truck went off on the Cop Road, it was going to be more of a recovery mission of personnel than anything, trying to get down there.
Yeah.
So I had Adams get climbing ropes and ascenders, the ones you just lift up and pull yourself up with.
Yeah.
The figure eights, all that stuff. So we could, and Skedco. So if we had a truck go over, we could still get to you. Because I remember when Lopes took that 4-wheeler down from the Cop, they got pushed off the side of the road. Did you hear about that one? Oh yeah, there's
no.
ask Lopes about his 4-wheeler when you talk to him.
Okay.
So he had to go back down and get the jingle trucks and bring them up on this 4-wheeler that was, I think, Branscome's or something up the Cop. I guess it ran out of fuel, or he rode on the running board or something. I think he rode on the running board of one of the jingle trucks back to the Cop. So somebody drove by and knocked that dude off. So of course we had to go back with Jingle Crane, me and Regal, and can't remember who else. We had to climb down to that stupid thing, hook up to it, and pull it up with this Jingle Crane. Well, of course, a mortar round lands near us.
Oh shit!
I'm like, you didn't just throw that, did you? And he's like, nope. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And you're climbing back up.
Yeah.
60% grade or something is.
I don't know how I didn't hear about that one.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's things like that the climbing ropes in the back of the truck, the Skedcos, the litters, the medic bag. And then, I always had the mark. So the 50 trucks was a little bit different, but the first 5 rounds of a Mark 19 belt, the ones that go in the gun always had like green marker paint on them. Had go or yes, yes, yes written on them with green marker paint. And the last 5 said no, no, no in red. So didn't matter who was in the back seat handing ammo up to either Peyton or Mumal. When that gunner saw that green or that red, he knew which side went to the can and which side went to the gun. It was stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's just getting rounds on target that much faster.
Yep. Huh.
But I tried to explain that to my counterpart coming in, and he looked at me like I was stupid. Like, why are you doing that? You'll see. You'll learn quick, buddy. So yeah, it was something else. And I remember that BSB recovery, we sat there for so long with our Duke on it, burned it out. So as we go back to the Fenty and reset, it's almost time to get on a plane to get out of there. Our truck's still down because the damn Duke burned out. So it's a lot of learning, and you especially with me, I go to Fort Lewis, and all the stuff that I did, people were like, huh. Like, there's no way. All right. Do convoy live fires, and you're telling them, hey, you need to do this, and you do that. And they're like, oh, we've been doing it this way. Okay. We got a little bit more experience with it. I think we drove over 18,000 miles in 15 months. I think it was. But I was an old truck and a new truck. I think it was around 18,000 miles. But it was those first couple months, it was painful. I remember we were chasing a jingle truck down one night coming back to Fenty that he was just doing his own thing. I don't know if he was asleep or high or what he was doing, but yeah, we finally got him stopped. But yeah, there are lots of stories. I mean, hours worth of stories. we can tell. And those guys out at Blessing putting Nim's 4-wheeler on top of the container, being, haha, funny guys. But I mean, little things like that that's still funny when you got Wim Hof and Cox and all those other guys that, I wouldn't say are passing the time, but are, trying not to get into a pattern that's, just every day it's the same thing, 400 and almost 40 something days or however many it was that we were there.
Yeah.
They can get monotonous and people can get lazy and people can get, set in their ways. And I think the way we did it, and yeah, we were so high tech, we did it on a piece of butcher paper. That's how high tech the convoys were that we ran. Because you always had, usually Humvee had 5 seats and you try not to put the 4 people in it. Because if a truck went down somewhere, somebody's got to sit somewhere. So, you're filling in seats. Oh, and scratch him. He's not important. He's not from our battalion. He ain't going out there. So our high-tech butcher paper, setting our convoys up. And then we're doing what we do and then come back. And we always tried to leave when it was dark. That was, I heard you and Jones talk about luck. I mean, we were, if there was anybody lucky in Afghanistan at the time, it was us. By God, there was opportunities we could have bit down on that real fast, but we try to leave when it's dark. We try not to set pattern. We're not going every other day. We're going today and we're going tomorrow. And then we're taking 3 days off. We're, going, this time we're leaving it, right before it gets light, or we leave right after it gets dark. We were trying to keep that rhythm of resupply going, but at various times,
right.
Departure times, if they're getting set in because they see a convoy going by every 3 days at the same time, they're going to learn your patterns and they're going to react to them, which we didn't want them to do. We wanted to mix it up. We wanted to keep them, on our schedule. So if the Taliban was going to shoot, we're going to get him when he's asleep. Right after he's coming off his high and he's tired, we're going to be on the road. Yep. Or, when he's at prayer or when whatever. So we tried to make it to where they couldn't figure us out pretty much. He's like that crazy uncle you got. You never know what they're doing. So that was what we were trying to do. We were trying to keep it to where, hell, we didn't even know what we were doing most of the time. And it was all supply driven.
Yeah.
Basically, it was what the companies needed and when we could get it to them. If a lot of contact was going on, that drove the ammunition requirement. Right. So we're moving. They're trying to set up Restrepo, so we got to push a lot of supplies forward. A lot of building material, a lot of stuff to make the move easier. We got to make 3 runs to the corn gall a day. We did it.
Yep.
It wasn't very fun, but it happened. And you can ask Moomaw about, or not Moomaw, you can ask the Muppet Hopkins about the first time we went to the corn gall and come back down. When we stopped in Michigan and those guys got out of the trucks and were sick because it was like, what the hell did we just get ourselves into? Because some of them hadn't been to the corn gall. We only took, I think the first time up was only 4 trucks. It was Lotes and Friend. And I think Sturdy might have been with them. So most of the other drivers and gunners, they hadn't been to the corn gall. And so when we went up there, the ASV rolled off the damn cliff. So by the time we get that done and get them sent back to Michigan, I think Lopez was driving that. And we start heading to the corn gall. It's starting to get freaking dark. So they're driving up to the corn gall outpost at night with nods and can't see anything. So when we come back the next day, they didn't know what they were driving through. So it was a life-altering event for some of them. And it is what it is. I mean, it's one of the worst roads I've ever drove on. I mean, you see them on TV, but yeah, ice is one thing, but somebody shooting at you on a road that you can look out a window and see the river, that's another thing.
Right.
But it was good. I still look back at, the whole, from inception to when I did my change of responsibility, is you guys were the best of the best anywhere in the Army. Yeah, we might have had issues. We might have had a couple bad C's, or we, had a couple Article 15s. Any other unit's going to have that. I mean, you're never going to be 100% perfect, but damn, you guys were close to it. Yep. It was amazing to see the transformation, all these baby faces when we went down there to these hardened, I wouldn't say killers, but these hardened dudes that were, and proud, and the other females that we had, Fructose and all those others. But it was amazing from start to finish. And
I agree.
And I'm sure you guys look upon it. Yeah, we're leaving the trucks running. The guy driving the truck's not getting out. Somebody else is unloading the stuff off the back. I mean, that's not glorious. They don't make movies about what, we did. I don't expect it. I don't expect a book deal either, but, but, if some of the guys are still in the Army, they're like, man, this, it's changed so much. I'm sure it has. I'm sure in 9 years it's changed. If you ask, Sturdy, he's just retired. I'm sure it changed from, the last year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's changed. The Army's always going to change. It has for the 240 something years it's been around. It's going to change, and the conflicts are going to change. And the ability to go out and conduct the convoy that we did and have no use of force incidents, to have, we did render aid a few times to, I think it's AMP wrecked into somebody, or somebody wrecked in the AMP or whatever it was near Firebase, Florida there, just near where Hunter Miracle was at, rendering aid to, the local Afghans. And I'm sure they're good people in Afghanistan. We weren't trying to hurt them. We were trying to hurt the bad people that were coming across.
Right.
Because they were trying to hurt us. You're trying to hurt your brothers or your sisters or your boys out at Combat Maine, or, your people over here at Blessing. That's pretty much what we were, every round that was returned, that's what you're doing, is you're protecting not just yourself, but everybody else around you. So it was, I think our responses to engagements were adequate, not excessive. They were what was needed, because if you just fire one or two shots back, they're going to be like, well, that's an easy target right there. We'll wait for them to come back through. But if if you're the bad guy and you're seeing all these trucks and each one of them's got muzzle flashes pointed back at you, I probably wouldn't mess with them the next time they come through.
Yeah.
So it was, like I said, I think our responses were adequate and necessary at times. When we had to stop, we stopped if we could. We weren't stopping with ammunition on trucks. That was just the nature of the game. I'd rather return a little bit of fire, keep going, and drop off, 15 tons of ammunition, and then on the way back play with you. But I ain't going to do it as we're going through.
Yeah. My first contact, I was telling Jones, I believe, on the podcast. I was driving Sergeant Bell in a Humvee, and right around the S curve You know what I'm talking about, where we always got hit between Blessing and but started to get contact, and I wanted so bad to stay there and just be part of it, but I had to push through so that the 5 tons could have somebody with them. But I was so ready to stay there and be part of it.
He was friends with Hopkins. Damn, I can't remember the kid's name. He showed up in like April or something and got a cab right off the bat. And then here you are, I think it was July or something, June or July.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know which one you talk about, because it was 4th of July and we were escorting 1st Infantry's stuff out, and we were bringing our stuff back. And we got past Combat Main, and we get around Mateen and Tentil, where California was at. And we had talked about it at Asadabad on the hood of my truck and said, if this goes down, this is what's going to happen. My truck's going to pull to the left, and we're going to, draw and return fire as everybody else drives by, and then we'll pick up with you. And it's actually on video, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes.
Where can I find said video?
I got it. Cisco Hernandez and Byron Brigade were in the wrecker, and they recorded it. So as you start off with, the scene, and there's these jingle trucks with containers on the back, and you can see where they're making that left-hand curve there. And then we go across the straightaway, and my truck's sitting there, and you can hear the RPGs and see the bullets hitting the water. And then Hernandez yelling at one of the AMP guys to run, put those run, as he's like high-tailing it back to the rock building there. But it's on video, and the second half of it's on video as well from Hopkins' perspective, because one of our big things with gun trucks, and Sergeant Major Myers used to make this a point as well, that a gun truck is just a platform to get that gun into the fight. And that's all it was. And it was starting and stopping. It was, you don't take off real hard and you don't hit the brakes real hard, because if that gun's trained on something and he's about ready to shoot, and you make a sudden movement and that gun shifts, you're putting a round somewhere you can't get it back from. So it was, and I think all of our trucks were that way. When we come to a halt, it was, you hear the brakes applying, they're squeaking, making, that grinding noise that they used to make, but they were coming to a rolling stop. The same thing taking off. We weren't taking off fast, because usually those guns were looking at something. Gunners, maintain that gun, the TC, whoever it was, if it was me, Lotz, Van Leer, Rosario, Pearson, Sturdy, any of the TCs, they're usually the only person to get out of that truck. That driver, and the Muppet knew, Hopkins knew he was never going to get out of that truck.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, there was no reason for him to get out of the truck. His only job was to make it to where Mumaw or Peyton at the time could get that gun on target. That was the only reason he was out there in that truck, was to move the truck so the gun could get where it needed to go. And then that was understood. I think all the gun trucks were understood with that. But it was, the engagements were one thing. That was the cool as a cucumber Mumaw up there on a gun, that we made that corner in that video, and I can hear it, plain as day. He's like, they're shooting again. Like we're talking right now, like no big deal. And then he just starts laying on the rounds. So the conditioning between drivers and gunners, because they were a team, actually that whole driver gunner TC was basically one element.
Yeah.
And that whoever else was in the 2 empty seats in that truck, they were just, the only reason they were there was to keep that gun fed with ammunition. That was it. That was the only reason they were riding in those trucks.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back at one of our medics one day, and I tell him to hand up some ammo, and I look back and he's got a Snicker bar in his mouth as he's holding it in his mouth, handing up ammo to Mumo. That was the only reason anybody sat behind the two front seats, was to keep the guns fed. And it was understood, if you weren't in the battalion, you probably weren't getting a seat. If you didn't need to go forward, there was a couple exceptions. You know, if you were in the brigade element and you needed, you know, you were fires or something like that, and you need to go out, you were Charlie 173rd BSB and you need to go see your medics, yeah, I got it. But if you were any other Joe Schmo, you probably weren't getting a seat. Not that we didn't like you, which we didn't, but we needed those seats open, and we had people with more important jobs that were sitting back there. Right. Medics. We had, I remember one time the brigade sergeant major was riding with Sergeant Major Komodo, and Hopkins was on R&R at the time. So Adams had got us those high endurance Snicker bars from Bagram, sent down to us. And Sparrow, I think it was Sparrow. Yeah, Daniel Sparrow. We had a couple of them sitting on the damn dash of the truck. So we're driving along, and Sergeant Major Komodo sitting behind him. I'm sitting over in the TC seat. And Sergeant Major is making idle chit chat, and he goes, "Hey, driver." Sparrow's like, "Yes, Sergeant Major." He's like, "The Snicker bar is any good?" "Roger that, Sergeant Major." I'm like, what the? Yep, he just did it. So that was like early on in our drive to Camp Blessing, and Jones talked about it. We get past Michigan, and I'm in the lead, and Sergeant Major Komodo was like, "Hey, First Sergeant." "Yes, Sergeant Major." He goes, "Are you guys get in contact pretty frequent?" "Like every now and then, Sergeant Major." And all you hear is RPG, boom. I look in the mirror and I can see the dust cloud and Jones' truck driving through it. I'm like, "Every now and then, Sergeant Major." So it's pretty entertaining, yeah, to say the least. So it was a good time. I love the shit out of all you guys, still do. I mean, some of you were bigger pains in my butt. Dennis. Yeah, triple D, but I mean, it was a good time. I wouldn't trade for anything. I
100% agree.
I love and respect every one of you, and I appreciate everything you guys did. Not for me, not for Captain Thing, but for the battalion. You know, for a 1,000-man task force Rock that supported an area the size of Rhode Island. That's what you guys did. There's always ammunition. There's always, the things that they needed. That was what you guys impacted. You weren't changing hearts and minds. You were supplying the people that were able to change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
Because we were enablers. We were a piece of the pie, and we did a pretty good job doing it, I think, because 2 brigades replaced us when we left. 2 brigades took our area of operation. So if a forward support company can do that yep, a battalion had the operations and 2 brigades had to come in after, it's a pretty big deal. I think you guys did a pretty good job.
Well, not blow smoke up your ass or anything, but we couldn't have done it without you guys. So you and Captain,
we got a little bit more hair now than when I did, but
I do too. I used to shave my hair, but now I'm growing a mohawk. So
yeah, I talked to Sergeant Morris right before Thanksgiving, and he's in Germany with his wife and the kids, and and I've probably, and like you guys, you and Jones said, you don't talk to people as much as you should, and I'm not really a fan of the whole social media thing. it's good in some aspects. But the only reason I still maintain Facebook is to keep, in contact with you guys if it's needed. And the ones that are still in the Army, if they need something from the time they were a fusion company, I can, I probably still have it. The awards or driver's badge or something like that. But when I hear about loss of one of the fusion guys, one of the rock guys, like, man, when he passed away, that was a terrible thing. It could have been avoided. And I hope that we're living our life for the ones that can't, the brothers that didn't make it back. But I hope we're living it to where we're not doing it dangerously. We're not taking unnecessary risks that's going to put ourselves or somebody else at harm. Because the impact that we made then, we can still impact people now. There's a lot of you guys are out there doing great things. You got your podcast, and you got Bonilla out there going to school to better himself, and so he can make a change. You got Jones doing the farrier thing and helping out vets.
What doesn't Jones
not vets, but he's helping out veterinarians.
Yeah.
And everybody's doing something. I hope. I'm just, I wouldn't say getting by. I'm getting, I get up every day and, work on I work on heavy equipment, but it's what I always enjoyed doing. And I like doing it. I feel good about doing it. And I think I make a change because we do have rebuilds for the Army that we do, and we have rebuilds for waste handling companies, and those machines go out and they impact communities. Or the machines that we do for the Army, and they go back out and they help out units that are either training soldiers or deploying or something like that.
Gotcha.
And it's something that if anybody needs help, and I'll tell you, I wouldn't see, I would say the bad word, but I wouldn't see the psychiatrist and the psychologist, and having the nightmares and having all this kind of stuff. And everybody was affected differently, but everybody's affected nonetheless, to put it that way.
Yeah.
Because we all saw different things, different viewpoints, but we were all experiencing something that the large majority of the country is not going to experience. They're not going to have to maybe put their life on the line for somebody else. And that's a toll that you have to carry. And I'm sure out of the 143 fusion guys, you had friends in some of the companies. They might have got wounded, or they may have got killed in action.
Yeah.
But as you went further up, you had less people to talk to. It's like a pyramid or a Christmas tree. So as you went up, you got lower enlisted, you got NCOs, and you got senior NCOs and the company command. When that was going off, and Mitchell Rucker was, there, and I know, he don't have anybody he can really talk to other than his platoon sergeants. And then you got the company commanders that are, having losses. We're taking a lot of the burdens off of you guys, because you're the ones that are going to be a close mesh family that are going to accomplish the mission. So as the first sergeants and the commanders are making sure you guys have everything you need, as it trickles down, you're really not seeing it at your level the lower you go down, because we're taking the heat off of you. But it affects us differently. You guys are all bundled together in a tent. You had it, the Call of Duty, and you had, the music and all your other jackassery that you guys were doing. I've seen the pictures. I still have them. But, all that kind of stuff. And you guys you were able to let off steam, and you were able to have, somebody to talk to or bullshit with, or, do your thing. But if people were out there and they need to see somebody, do it. There's, those 1-800, helplines or help a vet or whatever the number is. And we've all experienced it, the whole range of different things that are going on, the anxiety and the depression, the anger, not wanting to be around people, or, sitting with your back to the door, or not sitting with your back to the door, all that, driving, looking at the sides of the road. Everybody's got some of the indicators that are going on,
Right.
but it makes you no less of a man or woman to go get the help, or see the VA or call one of the numbers. They don't ask for your information. They just are here to listen, or
Absolutely.
get on social media and, I am somebody, and get the phone number and call them up. I mean, we all need to talk to somebody at some point, because my wife, I can explain it to her, but she's not going to know what you guys know.
Right.
When, how it looks in Asadabad when you're driving through and there's people all over right before you get to the circle in Asadabad. And it, I hate Walmart. I hate going in there. Too many damn people, especially during the holidays. And I drive a shopping cart because I have to have something to keep my focus on, instead of, people all up in my space. But we all cope differently. We all, I guess, find ways around it. But I'm I'm sure all the people in Fusion, somebody, that know they need help, they should go see some help. If you know, just like drinking, if you know you have a problem, then you have a problem. If you know you have anger issues, or you have anxiety in the crowds, then you probably do have it. So you need to go see somebody, or talk to somebody, or call a friend, or somebody that was a hooch mate or whatever in Fusion, and talk to them. But it's something that other people will not be able to relate to. They'll, you go talk to a psychiatrist, they'll shake their head and, yep. But they're not going to understand. They can't. There's no way they can possibly understand what you've gone through. But somebody that's been there, they will. And maybe they'll remember something you don't, and, get a laugh about it, and you work through it. Or I think when I went to the 10-year reunion in 2017, there's two guys from Fusion Company there. It's me and Smith, one of the cooks.
I actually had planned on going to that, but I wasn't able to, unfortunately, because
that was pretty good time.
Really?
Pretty good. Oh yeah. And it's just a group of people that, once they have feelings for each other, but have been in the same situations, that can relate to each other. And it's just, not only do we have the OEF guys and OIF guys, we have the Vietnam guys there as well. But it's good for them to see the younger 173rd guys and know that we're still around.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them didn't even know the brigade reactivated. You hear that a lot at the reunions too. I didn't even know the brigade was stood back up. I was there at Fort Campbell when they deactivated. So yeah, it's good. But I think we need to contact each other a little bit more frequently. Not per se me and you, but me and somebody I hadn't talked to in a while. Maybe I'll hit Vega's not on Facebook as much, but send Benia a message, or send Muma a message. I sent Hopkins a message at Christmas, and talk to Morris every now and then. I talk to Pearson, probably not as much as I have, but just stay in contact with people and see how everybody's doing. That's my take on it, I guess you could say.
I completely agree. Part of the reason I wanted to start doing this podcast. So I 100% agree. Well, I've kept you for over an hour now, so
I know.
I can let you go if you would like.
Now battery, it's like we got 13 or 14% remaining.
Oh, is that what that sound was?
Yep. None of the battery told me it's low.
All right.
It's good talking to you.
Yes. Thank you for everything that you did when we were in Italy and Afghanistan, and thank you for doing this. I definitely appreciate it. So
that's good. Yeah, like I said, I was going through the pictures the other day, and it's just bringing back a lot of good memories. I mean, you don't take pictures of the bad stuff usually. It's all good. You guys are crashed out in the Sadabad. We're going to the COP, or we're, at Blessing doing sling loads or something like that, or NIMS 4-wheeler or what have you. But yeah, it was all good times, and I still, look back on it as some of the best days I've had.
I 100% agree. I say it all the time. My wife probably gets tired of hearing it.
And I'm sure I was probably not, a cheery fellow at times, but you got to understand it wasn't because I was trying to be an asshole to you guys, but I wanted you to, go to combat and be able to return home to your loved ones.
Mission accomplished.
That's why we used to do the Soldiers Creed every morning in formation. So you kind of get that, inculcated into you, and, especially with all the contact that we had during the time we were there, I think it paid off.
Sorry, I'm pulling something out of my wallet real quick to show you. I don't know if I got this from the one. Can you see that at all?
Yep.
I don't know if I got it from the 173rd or basic or whatever, but I've kept it in my wallet. Even though I've been out of the military forever now, I still have it.
All right. I'm at 11 minutes, but if it disconnects, it's because my battery died. But I'll tell you this, I got a rock 2nd Battalion coin that was given to me by, at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Stammer, after OEF 6, before we stood fusion up. And it's just a, battalion coin. I dropped it once in quarters and it kind of dented a little side of it up, but every day from when we stood up in 2006 until I retired from the Army, I carried that coin in my pocket, left corner or left breast pocket, every day. And it was, I wouldn't say that was my good luck, because, paratroopers and everybody else has their own little superstitious ways of, always put your right sock on first or whatever it is, that thinks it keeps them safe. But, I think back having that rock coin in my pocket was, something I always did as a good luck charm. But yeah, my battery's about to go, Web Schwitz, but good talking to you. And
Yes.
I'm going to take my own advice and start hitting some people up on the social media and just seeing how they're doing. Tell them I'm thinking about them, because a lot of times I do think about you guys and all the stuff we did. And yeah, it's still amazing to this day, 12 years later, and it still, blows my mind of what we accomplished, what we were able to accomplish, and the unit we were proud to support. But I'll close on that before my battery goes completely down on me.
Well, thanks again. And you've got my number, so don't hesitate to text or call. And if I'm ever in Missouri, I'll get a hold of you and take you out for dinner.
We'll get Sturdy and Peterson involved, and we'll have a little shindig. All right, buddy.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Well, there you have it. That was my first sergeant. I'm sorry I can't call you Bryan. You're still first sergeant to me. But like I said, thank you so much for coming on and having that conversation with me. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I definitely appreciate that as well. That wasn't even half of what I know me and First Sergeant could have talked about. Like he said, he has a whole bunch of stories, and I'm definitely going to have to reach out to him and have him back on again if I can sometime in the future. And if I'm ever in Missouri, you can bet that I'll be hitting him up and go out and have a drink or something. But yep, so grateful that he agreed to come on here and do that with me. This is episode 2 of the Comm Chatter Solid Steel and Sex Appeal podcast, and this is January 5th. I gotta get my plugs in now. I bring up January 5th because I'm doing a content challenge, 2021 365-day content challenge. That's right. If you don't already know, please go check it out. I posted some videos of my kids. I posted a school project. I'm posting this today, obviously. Just something every day for 2021. I am going to post some type of content. So please make sure you're checking that out. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go tell your mom, your brother, your friends, your enemies. I don't care. Tell everybody to come check out my channel. Hit the subscribe button, like the videos, watch the videos, share the videos, do all that fun stuff. But yeah, it helps me keep going, trying to grow this YouTube channel. I need you guys to help me do that. Another thing I'm trying to grow, I'm doing a podcast, an audio podcast with my brother. It's called It's called Two Brothers and a Review. The Instagram is Two Bros and a Review. But yeah, anywhere you listen to podcasts or music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those, check it out. It's called Two Brothers and a Review. We review movies weekly. We drop bonus episodes here and there. I'm actually, as soon as I'm done doing this, I'm going to Zoom call my brother, and we're going to review Inglourious Bastards, my favorite movie of all time. But yeah, so Two Brothers and a Review. And then on Instagram, if you head over to Instagram, it's Two Bros and a Review. Give us a follow there also. I'm trying to do all these things. I just need you guys to support. I just need your guys' support. If you listen to my podcast, you know I stutter a little bit and stumble over words. It's half the fun of it, right? Okay, so I'm going to try that again. I need your guys' support to keep doing what I'm doing. I enjoy doing it, but I do still need to have the support to grow. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my audio podcast. Go over to the Instagram, Two Bros and a Review. Hit the like on that, or follow, I should say. And yeah, I'm going to keep putting out content, and I appreciate it.